So, we were having a discussion about
first
what topic
say hi.
to bring up. Well, you don't always have to, but hey, yeah, hi. We're Morrison Madness.
Welcome to Morrison Madness. Okay, so
sorry, I just was going to dive right in.
You were going straight in? Yeah, okay.
We were trying to discuss, a topic, and our friend that does our video work for us, which we greatly appreciate.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Behind the scenes.
Said, in your last one, you touched on, when we were talking about the ring and the adventures of getting the ring, that we touched on the adventures of buying the house, and he said, she started to talk about that, and you were like, oh, that's a whole nother podcast.
Because it is.
And I was like, yeah. And he goes, well, that people want to, when you say stuff like that, it makes people want to know. I want to know. So, again, we weren't engaged.
No.
We had just gotten back together dating.
Well,
and
a few months. I mean,
really just gotten back together dating. And your parents were so confused.
A little, yes.
Because
they didn't really.
Because we're looking at, but you started talking about looking at houses.
Yes.
And they're like, why? And then the fact that the size of the house. I mean, you already had a house. I had a house.
Right.
Right. But then we're looking at 5-bedroom houses.
Right.
And they're like, why do you need a house so big? And then when you said, well, because Don's gonna move in with me.
Right.
And they're like,
no. that you don't live with people before you're married in my family. That's a no-no, right? So no.
And so we had to explain to them that we were just looking.
Right.
And so if we back up a little further,
but they didn't know.
In May.
Right. There you go.
Not in May, in June. At the beginning of June, there is a polka festival.
Baxterfest, yes.
That they would come to every year, and
Shout
so
out
I had planned at Baxterfest to ask their permission to marry her, and they usually would come and stay the whole weekend, like 3-4 days.
Right.
And they show up and they immediately tell us that they're leaving to go back and help her brother who lives in South Dakota because there's flooding.
And he lives on a lake, and
right.
So he was worried that his basement was going to flood.
So
they weren't going to stay. They were coming for supper.
So they're not even getting to spend time with me and know me at all.
No.
And after dinner, I just have to ask them. And their response to me, both of them, right? I mean, I asked her dad, but both of them said to me, well, she's a grown woman. She can do whatever she wants. And I was like, that's not really permission. So I didn't feel very good about that on the drive home.
I don't think they were very excited about the idea of us being married.
No.
At all.
No.
At all.
Not what they had pictured for their lovely daughter.
No.
No.
No. The fact that you had been married before, that you had kids, and that you have an autoimmune condition, so rheumatoid arthritis, and so then you tend to
among others, yeah.
flare-ups and you can get pretty sick. And they were not excited about that at all. They were like, well, you need to find somebody with less baggage. I remember that comment.
Yes.
And I said, well, I could find somebody with less baggage, and then who knows what I'll get.
They love me now. Shout out to my in-laws. They are great, wonderful people. I love them. I call them Mom. I call him Dad. I very seldom do I use their name, which is weird because she doesn't call him Dad. She calls him Eldon.
And you have to understand, though, for that's because otherwise he doesn't answer half the time. So you call him Eldon to get his attention. So yes, we love my parents.
It really melted their heart when my kids called them Grandma and Grandpa.
Yes. I think that's what really did it in. Then they were like, okay.
So we're looking at houses, and we're just not having any luck.
But we originally started looking at houses for fun.
Yeah.
Because again, we
knew eventually.
So you asked my parents in June to marry me. We didn't start looking for ring. We were looking at rings. We wanted to be engaged and married before we got a house. That was the plan. So we were just looking at houses to more discuss what we both like, what we both don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was something fun to do on the week. It's cheap entertainment to go look at houses.
Yeah, and we looked at several. There was several that had. I mean, we looked at a lot. There were several that had really good potential. I mean, we looked at one out by the reservoir that had a 2-level garage and was on a couple of acres. And I mean, I just was in heaven. I would have loved living out there. Was in the country and had a big driveway, and I could have had. I grew up on a farm. I mean, I could have had my tractor in the front lawn, and nobody would have given two shits.
He did try here, and it didn't fly. That's a whole other story.
And it was a great house, but the kitchen was so small. I mean, if you've ever been on a boat, it was about the size of a galley, and it was all 1970s. I mean, it would have totally needed to be.
Was it even 70s? I feel like it was 1960s.
No, I'm pretty sure it was 70s.
I mean, it was an old.
It would have really needed to be
refrigerator,
updated.
Everything would have had to.
Cupboards.
Appliances.
Yeah.
There wasn't even counter space for a microwave, and there was no place to put it up into the cabinets anywhere. Like, it was tiny.
Oh, even the light switches were some new age 70s. I'm sure at the time they were real high end.
Right.
They were like dials or.
Yeah, it was something weird.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was some smaller. The kitchen was smaller than the apartment kitchen that I had.
Yes.
Which is small. I mean, you couldn't have gotten 2 people in the kitchen.
And I love to cook, so.
And I do too.
We talked ourselves out of that house.
We were like, we're gonna have to build on a whole nother kitchen if we want this house, which is pretty expensive.
And it was right at the top of our budget.
Yeah.
And then we looked at another house that's actually not too far from the house we live in, and it was amazing. It had a huge backyard.
And it was all privacy fenced in.
Yes, and it had an entrance from the other street into that backyard area.
Yep, and the backyard was large enough that you said you could put a shed or like a garage.
Yes.
That was like a 4-car size garage, and you were still only using a quarter to a third of the backyard to do that. And you could have had your man shed and tools and all of the things, and it would have gone out to that back gate in the privacy fence.
And you could have parked your car in the garage.
And I could have parked my car. Wow, I could have parked
my car
in the garage.
It had a small kitchen.
Yes, it was
really
a small kitchen.
It was weird.
And then the dining area, we couldn't have fit all 5 of us at a table in the dining area because the dining area was pretty much in the kitchen. So then we would have had to have the.
No, it had a formal dining room. Remember?
Right, but the formal dining room was carpeted.
Yes,
and at the
but
time,
it was not attached to the kitchen. The dining area in the kitchen, yes, was very small, like for 3 people.
Right, and the dining room was carpeted, and so we were
so the whole house is carpeted in white. Not like off-white, not tan. The whitest white, like you wish your teeth were that white.
Right.
It was crazy.
And your oldest boy, second oldest boy, the oldest boy is already out of the house,
right.
So he wasn't going to live with us. But so he's, what was he, 9, 10? And he's an artist. So he has art stuff constantly. And the current room that he had was a room that was in the basement. And he specifically did not want carpet and that kind of stuff because it messed with his art. Like it reminds me of, he would be so excited to live in the New York City, what's that?
A warehouse loft.
Yes, that's exactly what he wants. And he was like that when he was 10. And so we were like, well, the carpet definitely won't survive him. And then on the other side, you had your youngest, who was 5.
Right.
And if you had an animal, the animal would be overweight just from eating the crumbs that she would drop eating at the dining room table. And you had a dog. And so the dog coming in and out of the house, I mean, that carpet was going to be... Yes.
There was no way.
And so we knew the carpet was going to have to go.
And on top of it, it was a little bit above what our budget was. So we're like, we wouldn't be able to remodel the kitchen. We wouldn't be able to change out the carpet. This would just be a nightmare. And was it a 4-bedroom? There was like 3 bedrooms. It was 4 bedrooms, and then there was a giant unfinished room that we could turn into another bedroom. Right. But the 1 bedroom was in the basement, and then... Or that was the room that we'd have to switch to make it a 4-bedroom, is what it was. Yeah, there was 1 bedroom in the basement and 1 unfinished room. Right. Yeah. And then, we really wanted 5 bedrooms from the get-go kind of thing. Because every kid had their own room and we wanted a guest room. Because, again, my parents, when they come to visit, because we're about 4 hours from them, I don't want them to have to stay in a hotel and they'll come and visit for several days at a time. So we talked ourselves out of that house. Yes. You miss that yard, though. Yeah, I do miss that yard. Because of all the little things about this house that I don't like, I hate our yard. I don't really care for our yard either. Our front yard is amazing, but our backyard is a valley, and it's like so dangerous to mow our backyard. I wouldn't even let the kids mow it.
Yeah, it makes me nervous to see you out there mowing. I don't like it. It's
Hold my beer.
I just have 911 on speed dial. So we can take you to your ER room that is in your name. Yeah. Thank goodness nothing has happened. We're gonna knock on wood on that because now our luck will be next summer. I'll be taking you into the ER because the mower is gonna roll over on us. But anyway, so again, we like our house. There's little things that we don't like or that we want to switch or what have you, but
For as big as our house is, it has almost no storage space.
correct. Yes.
So.
But we're getting a little off topic. So we were going to talk about actually the process of buying the house.
Well, right, but so we
Yes.
went and looked at a lot of houses,
Yes.
and then when we found this house, it was August.
Yeah, and we found the house, in all honesty, because part of when we were searching at houses and we were like, well, you know, your kids are still pretty young and we don't want them to have to switch to another elementary school. And so we want to try and stay in that area if we can. And Iowa City has 20 elementary schools and there's little neighborhood. So there's only 2 classes per grade kind of thing. So they're small elementary schools. And so we looked at houses all over, but we also at the whole time kept thinking, we really want to
keep them in their school district.
We really want to stay in the same elementary school.
And we like the elementary school that they were in.
Yes, yeah. And so I decided to get online and do some research and somehow thought, well, I'll just look and see what is out there for foreclosures and came across this property.
Right. And so
we brought it up to the realtor.
And so I have to back up a little bit. So the realtor is a friend of mine. His son worked for me when I owned my pet store, and then his son, who he is very proud of, and who I am very proud of, is now a Navy SEAL.
Yes.
And he went into the military because of having worked at the pet store and listening to me talk about my experience being in the Marine Corps, and amazing what he has done.
Yes.
And so Bob was a friend, and
Is a friend,
we could be on. Yes, he is a friend, and we could be honest and upfront. We didn't feel like we had to hide anything from him. We tell him exactly what we wanted, what our price range was. He didn't try to upsell us on stuff.
Well,
he didn't try to show us stuff we didn't want.
We were looking at stuff online and then we'd be like, we really kind of want to check this house out. And he was like, I can't follow what you're actually looking for, because we were all over the board on the style of house, because we were more concerned about amount of space, rooms, and price.
Right.
It wasn't the layout. It wasn't the that kind of stuff. Because when we were first looking, we were looking to see what we liked and didn't like, rather than where it was even located.
Right.
So when I saw this house, we let the realtor know.
Right.
And the realtor comes back and says, that house doesn't exist.
Yeah, that house doesn't even have an MLS. I can't even find it. I don't know, what are you talking about?
And I said, well, it's on this foreclosure site, and we had come out here and driven by it because it wasn't very far from where you were currently living.
And we gave him...
And there was a sign in the yard
right,
saying
and we
it was
gave
for
him
sale.
that realtor's number.
Right. So we gave him the number that was on the sign in the yard.
And she was a realtor from a town about 45 minutes away. So it was weird that why the Florida bank went with her,
No idea.
God only knows.
No idea.
But he got a hold of her. We came in and looked at the
And
house.
she had said that she had just put the signs up in the yard and was going to list it the next week or something on MLS, and that's why he couldn't find it yet.
Well, they had it listed somewhere, but apparently not in Iowa City.
Yeah, not in Iowa City. Because she's not from Iowa City.
Because it didn't sell for them, and so then they tore out all the carpet and linoleum and put all new carpet and linoleum in it.
Right.
Like a month before we saw it.
Well, they had just finished. Because she said, even to the realtor, that we can't let you in until 2 days from now or whatever, because they just finished the carpet and they want a couple days for it.
Oh, yeah, because they wanted the glue to dry
dry.
the linoleum and stuff, yeah.
Right, because they were like, we just finished doing this. So we were like, oh, well, new carpet, new linoleum. That's awesome.
It's not.
It's not. It's really crappy carpet, linoleum, but that's all right.
Yeah.
It
So
survived the kids.
we
dog.
get into the house, and you can tell that it's a foreclosed house. There's a place in the dining living room area that has mustard on the ceiling.
We think it's mustard. It might be yellow paint.
We don't know. It looks like somebody threw a
It's
pop
a stain of some sort.
at the wall going down the steps. You can see it kind of dripping down. A bunch of the doors were busted. We were told that there was some domestic violence going on or something in the house.
Right.
But nothing that is a major fault with the house. And so,
Right.
we we really wanted to get the house.
Yeah.
And so we talked to your parents about if they would be able to help us because you didn't have enough money saved up and we weren't in a position to be selling my house.
Well, because this was a foreclosure, we couldn't do it with
You had to have 20% down.
Yeah, we had to, I think we had to have 20% down, but we also couldn't, even if we could have sold your house.
We couldn't do it on a contingent.
That's what I was looking for, yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So, and so we talked to my parents. My parents said that they could help us with it.
Well, we had to send them the blueprints, the layout of the house, right?
Yeah,
and
that was a whole other thing
send
too, because we
pictures.
had to come and the realtor let us in, and we had to. My dad was an architect. He went to college for architecture and had taught me how to draw up actual architecture blueprints. And so I was literally having you measure every single wall, how far away closets were, all those kinds of things. And I was literally drawing out the blueprints, and the realtor was just baffled that I was doing this.
And her parents live in a small town. I mean, it's a big town for the area that it's in,
Right.
but it's a small town.
Right.
And small towns, the price of houses are nothing like they are in Iowa City. Iowa City is the most expensive town. Johnson County is the most expensive county, and Iowa City is the most expensive town in it.
Yes.
And so they could not believe how much the house was.
Right.
But then when they started, I feel like your dad looked at other houses.
Yes.
And he was like, oh, well, it's not out of line for Iowa
Right.
City.
Right.
And so
Well, and then when they saw like the blueprints and they realized how much square footage there was and
Right.
the layout and that kind of stuff, then they were like, well, this is actually a pretty good deal.
and I can't remember exactly what they were asking. And they were either asking 191.5 or 192.5.
I think it was 92.5.
Okay. And so I told the realtor, Bob, to offer him 150. And he was like, I can't do that. That's an insult. And I'm like, Bob, what do you care? This isn't one of your realtor buddies that you're going to go golfing at the next charity event.
Right.
So this is a bank in Florida.
Right.
And he goes, oh, that's true. So we took him the offer of 150. And they came back from the 192.5 to 191.5.
Right. So I feel like it was like on Tuesday that we originally said, well, let's put in an offer for 150, or maybe it was even earlier the week before or something that way.
It was, because it took a while.
Yeah, it took quite a while, and then all of a sudden, I wrote down some dates because you have to kind of see or hear the dates.
But you got to remember, they came back with 191.5. That took a while. That took.
Yes. So we put in the offer for 150, and then like a week later, which ended up being September 28th, which was a Wednesday, that they came back with this
191.5.
Sure.
And I said, offer him 151. And Bob just laughed and he says, okay. So he offers him 151. And then that same day.
Yes, just within a couple hours. It was a couple hours.
But you're doing what that day?
Yes. So that same day, I am taking the GRE in the afternoon. So I'm literally sitting on the couch studying and talking to you about, okay, sure, let's put in this offer. And so then the realtor's calling, and then he calls back, and within a couple hours.
But then you had to go and take the test.
Right. So then he calls back, though, and says, I can't believe this. They came back with 165. Right. And then
you and I looked at each other, and we both looked at Bob and said, sold.
Well, Bob wasn't there. He was on the phone. But yes, we were like, yeah, we'll take it. And then I literally went, and I gotta go take the GRE. And he was like, but I need you to sign these papers. And I'm like, after the GRE, Bob, I gotta take, I can't be late to take the GRE.
So I take you down, drop you off, you go up inside this building downtown Iowa City and take the GRE. And then as I'm coming back to pick you up, he meets us outside of where you took the GRE to have you sign the paperwork.
Because it had to be done before 5.
Yep.
So that was Wednesday, September 28th in 2011. And then, so we signed the papers for buying a house.
Right.
Who doesn't buy a house and take the GRE in the same
And
day?
usually
it's not
it takes
stressful or anything.
Usually it takes 30 days to close on a house.
Right.
And I think they wanted a little bit more than that. They wanted 5 weeks or something. There was some stuff that, because they're in Florida and she's in Washington.
They thought that it would be, yeah.
Yeah.
They thought that it would be.
And the house came with a 2-year warranty.
Right.
It didn't have any appliances in it,
Right.
But had there been appliances in it, they would have come with a warranty. Oh, actually, it had a microwave that didn't work.
Yes.
But it came with a warranty, and it even had a termite warranty thing that they had done on the house. So, I mean, all of those things were positive things. So we were like, we're fine. We don't. The 5 weeks isn't a big deal to us.
No, the 5 weeks are fine because then that gets time because we haven't started packing. It wasn't like we planned on
We didn't have to be out of anywhere,
going somewhere, and like as far as the appliances, I knew I could take the appliances from where I was living because I owned the appliances, whatever. So that's fine. But yeah, so then 3 weeks later, and every week on Wednesdays you play basketball.
Yes. It used to be twice a week, but as we got older and we had kids, we had all cut it back to once a week on Wednesdays, and you had started coming and playing. Right.
So I'm going with you and playing basketball. So on Wednesday, October 19th, which is exactly 3 weeks after we bought the house and I took the GRE, 3 weeks later, we're playing basketball, and my nose gets broken, which is a whole other story on how that happened. But my nose gets broken while we're playing basketball.
Broken severely.
Yes, severely broken. And then 2 weeks later, on Friday, November 4th, after breaking my nose, we got possession of the house and started moving.
Right.
So
and you're not supposed to be lifting anything over a gallon of milk. So you're not supposed to be helping much with the moving.
Right. Yes. And luckily it was a nice weather winter. It was a light winter. We didn't have a lot of snow.
Rain. We had a little bit of rain, but yeah, it was very mild, and it was easy enough to move.
So then we were trying to move me as quickly as possible before winter.
Right.
So then that way we could get rid of my old place.
Between your parents' van and my trailer.
Right.
Yep.
So in 5 weeks, our whole life flipped upside down in 4 different ways.
Yep.
And that is pretty much how things go in Morrison Madness Land.
Yes, everything happens all at the same time, or nothing is happening at all for an extended period of time.
Right, which is scary sometimes because you're just waiting for that other shoe to drop.
Yep. So, hope you found that interesting. If you have any ideas of subjects, obviously you don't know us that well, but you can kind of see where things are going. If you have questions about any things that we've hinted about or touched on, please comment.
Definitely comment. Make sure you're liking and commenting, and we'll see you in the next podcast.